Welcome back, our Take Sports Talk show. So, our last discussion is going to be a deep one. What we're going to talk about, because baseball season has started, the kickoff of the baseball year is here. When we know that Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in baseball, what I want to ask a question to the panel is this. Should baseball have been integrated, and was the integration of baseball a positive or a negative? What's your thoughts?
I think that's a deep topic. I'm going to speak as a history teacher. You know, baseball is actually the first official desegregated thing in society. And, you know, when Jackie Robinson breaks the color lines in 1947, we follow the following year with the desegregation of the military, thanks to President Truman. So it really was a groundbreaking moment for society in general to take a man and put him into a sport that was America's pastime. To be the only black person to play that sport, to be the first black person to play that sport. It was really something that we have to call Branch Rickey a visionary for doing, because he had the bravery to even do something that he knew would not be socially accepted. I think that moment is really the beginning, is really the catalyst for the civil rights movement to follow in the 50s and 60s, because Jackie Robinson represents a former serviceman.
Right, military man.
And we know that the roots of the civil rights movement is with those servicemen who came back from World War II. He was actually discharged from his duties as a serviceman. We know that his brother ran in the Olympics, which we refer to in the history world as, you know, the Hitler Olympics that took place in Germany. And it was basically everybody's show against the Germans. So he comes from a long line of people who are actually activists. So I think that it's truly important to stepping in the right directions of equality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think that that's a discussion in my opinion as far as whether or not we should have, you know, integrated. I'm just to take it a little bit further. You know, what I find interesting is how the color lines got, you know, crossed, and here we are in 2017, and if you look at the demographics of baseball, the majority of baseball players are what? Latino. So I'm wondering where all the African Americans went as far as baseball is concerned. When we start talking about crossing lines and who's playing baseball, and America's pastime is Latino driven. America's pastime is filled with immigrants. We can take this really super far. So yeah, I think it was pretty prevalent to the color lines being crossed. But now, as it stands now, not only have we crossed the color lines, but we crossed international lines, right? We crossed, you know, immigration lines. So this is, now that the season's starting, I'm wondering, and I ask people, I'm not a real baseball fan, I know baseball, I ask where all the African Americans at playing baseball.
Well, let me come at it a different way. And I feel that the integration of baseball hurt Black America. And the reason being is that we had the Negro Leagues, which was black entrepreneurship, which was thriving at a time that we was able to have our own niche in a world that we were segregated from. And the integration started now remove the whole Negro League population. Yes, we moved over into American baseball, But now what you see is that you don't see the black man in baseball no more, really. When you look at what the stats that I read just the other day, 11% of the players in Major League Baseball today is black.
Sound like gentrification, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So what I look at is, and yes, I do understand what you're saying as far as the civil rights movement, how it moves things in a different direction. The problem with that is this: through integration, did you now sit here in 2017 and you don't have a black-owned baseball team? When you look back 50 years ago and you had black ownership. When you look at basketball, you have one owner that is black. When you look at football, you don't have none. The integration really didn't help us. It really hurt us, because I think had integration stayed whereas you had the Negro League still, I think the population would have moved more towards still building the actual Negro Leagues.
Interesting, but that's two. All right, so we're talking about two different things. So we're talking about civil rights and we're talking about entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking about civil rights, which was at the time important, because we have always historically gone out of our way to say, hey, we can do what you do. We are human. We are men.
We're
right?
equal.
We are equal.
We are equal.
So that was the purpose of that. Now, if you want to think about the entrepreneurship aspect of it, we don't have our own, and now we've utterly disappeared out of baseball. That's a different conversation now. So we need to figure out why aren't African American or young African American men playing Major League Baseball? Where does that stem from? Where did it drop off at? Did it drop off in the communities? Are we more attracted to basketball? Are we pitched football? Are there programs in high schools, in elementary schools?
Let me help you out
that
there.
suit baseball.
Go ahead. You haven't said anything yet. Go ahead.
I had a question for you, because from what I got from what you were saying, it was basically like they accepted us to wipe us out in a way, if you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Which basically we can, if you go through history, which basically has happened repeatedly. So it's like a playbook, just same play being ran.
We wanted you to play, but we don't want you to own anything. Y'all are good to play for us, to get out there, and we'll put you on Front Street as far as playing, but not coming up to the front office, not ownership. That's where the limitations
I
are.
don't think it was solely about that. I think that these white owners, and they were all white, and the talent evaluators said, hey, you know what? These guys are good.
Mm-hmm.
And that we have to incorporate them. And listen, not for nothing, but Branch Rickey made it very clear that although he was bringing Jackie Robinson and he was bringing them in because he was good. And the guys that followed him.
No, Jackie Robinson.
I always heard Jackie Robinson
wasn't the best.
Wasn't the best.
He wasn't the best, but he was selected because of who he was, and he had to be the groundbreaking person. If you know Jackie Robinson's history, you gotta look into his backstory.
Right, I know, and I got you.
You gotta look into his backstory. He was selected to be the first because of his temperament as a human being and the fact that he was gonna be successful at it.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
If the Negro League doesn't integrate with Major League Baseball,
Mm-hmm.
do you think they would have been able to be real competition to the Major League? Maybe surpass the Major League?
They actually were competition to the Major Leagues, and that's why a lot of the historians question the actual numbers of Babe Ruth, of Warren Spahn, because they didn't go up against the best players. When you look at Satchel Paige, Satchel Paige was actually one of the best players at that time.
Better, yeah.
Okay, and he was 40 years old when he finally got into the major leagues. He was 40 years old. So the thing that I look at is this, and the civil rights piece, I get that piece of it, but so much is that what I look at is that we have always, as a people, have wanted to integrate. Mm-hmm. We wanted to be accepted, and I think that has been a part of, even though right now this society is still segregated. Many parts of our population is very segregated.
Agreed.
You're not going to put your child in a Jewish school. You're not going into Chinatown and get an apartment. The segregation is still there. Why is it that we were the ones that had to integrate when there's other populace that hasn't? So that's why I say it's a strong push to how it hurt us rather than really help us.
Yeah, again, no. As I stated, I think we we got to look at it from, we're hindsight is 2020. So we're looking at it from a perspective of now where we're at.
Right.
We
I
can
get that.
obviously say, hey, listen, maybe it was a disadvantage.
If we had a do-over.
If we had a do-over,
Right.
maybe it was a disadvantage. It's always if I knew then what I know now,
Without a doubt.
I'd be,
Without a doubt.
awesome. However, I do say that, listen, it's never too late to have our own. We have, this whole thing where, there were people saying, hey, Stacey Dash, if you guys know about Stacey Dash, she was mad. She was saying, there shouldn't be BET, there shouldn't be, any black-owned stuff.
You really brought Stacey Dash in?
I have to bring that up.
You really
It's
brought Stacey
important.
Dash, man?
Here's why.
Okay.
Here's why that's important.
You gotta make it important.
Here's why that's important. That's important because as people, we kind of got to understand where we lay at and why it is important for us to have our own.
Yes.
Because some people kind of miss that, and that's, that's post-slavery syndrome, if you ask me.
Okay.
So if you look at it from a historical standpoint, it was necessary for human rights, for civil rights. It was absolutely necessary.
I get that.
Had we not integrated back then, we may not have the right to even own our own now, or to be standing on the same platform. So we can argue,
It's possible.
back and
possible.
forth. So
I'm not saying
I do think that your point is well taken, because guess what? We broke down family. We broke down, understanding us as brothers. Being with each other and community. We have a lack of sense of community because now we're into this age of diversity.
Right.
Which I think is good. However, we are. First and foremost, we're the biggest and we're the largest populace of people that have been disenfranchised in the world.
Doubt.
That's not even
Without a
arguable, right? So we became integrated without even knowing about ourselves. So we are now, if you don't know where you live at and you go live in somebody else's home, you'll never know where you live at, right? You'll never know where you came from. So that's kind of where we're at with it. So I do think it's time maybe to take a step back and maybe evaluate where we can go as far as that's concerned. Obviously, are there programs for black baseball teams? Are there programs for black programs for training for baseball specifically? How do you pitch that now to the black community? Is my point.
I think it's hard to get kids in neighborhoods where basketball and football are seen as a sports where you can do something and promote baseball to them.
Right.
I think it's a lot harder to find a baseball field in an urban area. I think it's a lot harder to afford gloves, bats, helmets, chest protectors
In my
than it is a
neighborhood.
ball.
Hold on, listen. On that note, we got to end it right there. But this was a great discussion, as my brother said when he started. This is a deep discussion. Thank you for
Absolutely.
joining us with it. Once again, our take. Thank you very much.
Deuces.
Peace out.